I'm with Dr. S Y Quraishi, India's former Chief Election Commissioner from 2010 to 2012, widely regarded as an intellectual of the Indian Muslim community, although that description can be contested because India's Muslims are a very, very diverse community. But having said that, Mr. Quraishi was part of a group of Muslim intellectuals who reached out to the RSS a couple of months ago to talk about the discrimination and the unfair treatment being meted out to Muslims. A lot of them, as we know, have been killed as well. But that's not the subject of today's discussion. Today we're discussing the Uniform Civil Code that Prime Minister Narendra Modi so suddenly has thrust this debate upon the nation earlier this week at a BJP meeting in Madhya Pradesh, titled Mera Booth Sabse Majboot, ostensibly in preparation for the elections that are going to take place in Madhya Pradesh later this year. Sparked off this debate on the Uniform Civil Code, where he said that it is unfair for the Muslim community to have different personal laws than those that are prevalent or widely prevalent. He didn't say in comparison to which other religious community, presumably he meant the Hindus. But I'm going to ask Mr. Quraishi about all these questions, but before that, let me welcome him to The Print. Sir, welcome.
Thank you.
So yeah, the first question to you is about Prime Minister Modi's this debate that he sparked off on the Uniform Civil Code. Why has it immediately raised concerns in a lot of people, especially amongst Muslims, but also among a lot of other religious communities? Can you explain to us why has it become this big sort of thing?
Personally, I feel that Mr. Modi spoke about it only 3-4 days ago.
Yes.
Whereas Uttarakhand government had been talking about it, some other governments have been talking about it for the last 3-4 months, which is why Outlook magazine came out with a special issue on the Uniform Civil Code, and they asked me to write a paper for that.
Yes, that's right. In fact, the Uttarakhand Chief Minister, Mr. Pushkar Singh Dhami, has said that a draft for a civil code is already ready.
Exactly. So he has been talking about it for some time.
Yeah.
So actually the debate started then. But of course, when Prime Minister speaks, it assumed different proportions.
Yes.
And as soon as he came from the US, instead of discussing what we achieved in USA, which was a lot of achievement, suddenly talking of Uniform Civil Code, and he came in a campaign mode, addressing his workers.
Why do you think he did that? Why do you think he is not talking about Manipur or about his achievements in the US?
I don't know. Many people are talking about it, so I would not like to add my voice to it.
No, you should add your voice. Why do you think?
No, because I don't want to get into politics. I've tried to keep away from politics. But the fact is that there is politics behind the demand for Uniform Civil Code, whether it comes from Uttarakhand or it comes from Prime Minister. It has been there for some time, and it has acquired a political pitch recently for obvious reasons. There are elections this year and the general elections next year.
Right. Before
that. And we have seen that polarizing India into communities, particularly Hindus and Muslims. I'm very sorry to be using this term again and again. That has become a winning electoral strategy to which India hasn't found a counter. So this debate will surely polarize the country.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Why do you think it will polarize the country?
No, because the way it is put across to create some kind of a suspicion in the minds of the Hindus, and the doubt that Muslims are not following Indian laws and India's constitution. Why should we have different laws? Although my feeling has been, and I've been saying it for a long time, that the demand for Common Civil Code, which has been around for many years,
that's right,
is totally based on ignorance. I have spoken to many people. What do you think is India's main problem? Population. What do you think is the solution? Uniform Civil Code. And if you ask people what will the Uniform Civil Code contain, all that they know and talk about is polygamy. How can we have two laws where one community can marry 4 times, whereas another community cannot?
Basically, so, Muslim men can marry 4 times and Hindu men cannot.
Cannot. If you give them marrying the right to marry 4, perhaps this demand should die down. Right. So basically, it is the demand revolves around marriage and polygamy. So that is.
But isn't that true? Let me ask you. Muslim men under the Muslim personal law, are allowed to marry more than once.
No,
right?
Jyoti, I'll come to it. I would have come to it in greater detail.
Yes.
But here, what I'm trying to say, this debate and this demand has been based on ignorance. Because if you think polygamy is the only reason, they will not know anything else about common civil code. No, some common civil code is a lot more than marriage.
That's right.
Divorce, adoption,
Inheritance,
property, all these
child custody, alimony.
So many
aspects of the Uniform Civil Code. Absolutely.
If you talk to 20 people, 19 will only say polygamy. One may have some answer to something else, because actually it's a much wider and a very complicated issue. So, but if you want me to answer that polygamy thing right now.
Yes, let's talk about the polygamy, because there is this widespread suspicion.
Yes. Yeah. Again, there is a widespread myth about polygamy. I wrote a book last year called Population Myth, Islam, Family Planning and Politics in India, in which I brought this fact out. A Government of India study, mind you, a Government of India study of 1975, Status of Women in India Committee, which found that there is polygamy in all communities. And the least polygamous are the Muslims. And
that is very surprising.
It's very surprising, indeed very surprising. And Law Commission has quoted exactly those figures.
The same Law Commission?
Same Law Commission now, in 2018, they've used these figures. Now, tribal.
So Muslims are the least polygamous?
Yes.
Do you remember in your book who are the most polygamous?
Yes. I remember. Tribals are 15%, 15.25%. Then the Buddhists, then the Jains, then Hindus 5.8%, Muslims 5.7%. Now, here is another paradox, Jyoti. Muslims who don't adopt, practice polygamy, are willing to die for this right to polygamy. Whereas I think I should be the first to say ban polygamy, because I don't do it. Yeah. So, and the others who are actually practicing it, according to Government of India report, not mine, that they condemn Muslims for polygamy and they themselves are indulging it a lot more, which is what the Law Commission has reported.
But isn't that strange that 5.7, even though this is a very old figure, 1975. The study is as old as that. So it's almost 40 years old. 50 years old actually.
That is fine. That is what many people have said. But if this is the only study, what can I do? There is no other study.
It's not your fault.
Not my fault. But then at the same time, you are right. Since it was an old study, when I was writing my book, I wanted to see whether this is a freak one-off figure.
Right.
So I went back 40 years to 3-4 censuses.
Previous to 75.
Previous censuses.
Okay.
And exactly the same trend has been in evidence from 1921, 31, 41, and in this study. So this exactly has been the same trend. So,
and probably, while we don't know for sure, but probably even if no such study has been done, or at least has not been reflected by the Government of India, the trend should perhaps be 19-20, it must be the same.
Yeah, correct. But the fact that for 40 years this was the trend, 40, and the census figures are a lot more than a study of 6 lakh people.
Absolutely.
So therefore there is
so
no doubt about
5.7 population of the Muslim population and 5.8% of the Hindu population, men believe that
do not practice.
Not
believe. They practice family planning. The incidence of family planning among the Muslims is 5.7 and among the Hindus 5.8, larger. So, but then in public mind, it is the Muslims who have all hum panch hamare 25, hum char hamare 40. You ask anybody, a child in the street knows nothing about anything, but he knows about polygamy, char biwiyan, halala, nikah. Every child has been fed this information.
So, are you saying that the Prime Minister's invocation of the need for a uniform civil code, and he also, remember, at this BJP party workers meeting, he talked about triple talaq, and he said, and you have to give it to the Prime Minister because it is under the BJP government that the triple talaq ki, जैसे कोई भी आदमी कह सकता है तलाक अपनी पत्नी को, that is completely unfair, isn't it?
Absolutely. I agree with you and agree with the Prime Minister, because triple talaq is the most despicable practice among the illiterate Muslims till it was banned. It is totally un-Islamic. It is totally against the Quran. Quran prescribes Number one, Quran dislikes talaq in the first place. There is a verse in the Quran which says कि अल्लाह को सबसे ज़्यादा नापसंद चीज़ है तलाक. तो उसके बावजूद, but in case talaq becomes inevitable, there is a humane way of doing talaq, that you say talaq once, at the same time the woman stays under the same roof, so that you have a chance to reconcile. And if you cohabit the next day, the third day, that talaq gets cancelled, and so that they can come back together. Then he can do it after one menstrual cycle. Again, the second talaq can only be given after another 1 month, not before. And the third time. But so that it doesn't become a pastime and a hobby for men, after 3 times, which is why triple talaq, then it becomes absolute. Then you cannot take that woman back.
तो सर ये जो फोन पे तलाक देना कि मैं
सब नालायकी की थी और बहुत अच्छा हुआ कि बैन हो गई. And I have a complaint against Muslim Personal Law Board on this. That they should have, this was something that came before them. In fact, when the case was going on in the Supreme Court, I tweeted, I said, look, this thing is the most despicable un-Islamic practice. Please declare it un-Islamic and illegal. And if you don't, Supreme Court will, and then you won't like it. So they did not, and Supreme Court did it.
So therefore, Mr. Quraishi, in 1964, when the Hindu personal laws were reformed under Jawaharlal Nehru, and he pushed them through, he rammed them through. You remember that then Rajendra Prasad, who was our president, was against the reforming of the Hindu personal laws. Now, those were rammed through by the Prime Minister in the shadow of partition. All the partition had taken place about 18 or so years ago. But up to today, it's now going to be 75 years since India became independent. Why is it that the Muslim community themselves do not want to reform their own personal laws, make them much more egalitarian for both men and women?
Yes, I entirely agree. In fact, which is another thing I have been saying and mentioned in the same tweet also, that the reform has to come from within the community. Because if you try to impose it from outside, it will always be misunderstood and
suspect.
So the reform has to come from within the community, and Muslim Personal Law Board is the right authority which deliberates on these subjects, but doesn't take bold decisions. It should. So, but I would like to come back to polygamy, something which even Muslims don't understand. वो मैं उस पे आना चाहूँगा when you give me an opening.
जी बताइए, आप बताइए.
इसमें I would like to mention that polygamy is misunderstood even by the Muslims. There is only one verse in the Quran which talks of polygamy, which says that you can marry 2, 3 or 4. It is a permission. And when I hear this 2, 3 and 4 and I go rushing for looking for the second, third, fourth wife, but the complete ayat is provided you can treat them equally, which Allah knows is very difficult. So therefore you are advised to marry one. So therefore there is a condition of equality, which every Muslim cleric knows and talks about. But there is another condition which somehow they missed it, and I brought it out through my book. This ayat comes in the context of orphans and widows. When Allah is saying that you should treat the orphans and widows fairly, do not misappropriate their property, do not take away their good things, replace with your bad thing, and do justice. And the best will be that from among them you can marry 2, 3 or 4. Yeah, that means the first condition is marrying a widow. From among those orphans and widows, you can marry second.
Lekin sir, can I say here that in real life, I mean, jo ab Quran Sharif jo likhi gayi, it is what it is. But having said that, in real life, I mean, we all know, you know, and I know that men are hardly going to follow. They are going to do what they are going to do. Ek taraf Quran Sharif, I mean, that is the Bible for Muslims. But even if they are not, so therefore there should be, in a secular country like ours, there should be one law for everybody, whether it's in terms of marriage, divorce. Wouldn't you agree with that?
The prima facie sounds very good. Which is why a law commission was sat on it, and it was constituted by Prime Minister Modi. in 2016.
Ji.
He handpicked a chairman of the Law Commission, Justice B.S. Chauhan, who was the second senior most judge of the Supreme Court. And the mandate was come out with a recommendation for Common Civil Code. This commission deliberated for 2 years, the widest ever deliberations on Common Civil Code. He received 75,378 representations, hundreds of delegations. After hearing all of them, what did he recommend? That your Common Civil Code is neither necessary nor desirable at this stage. Now, somebody, Law Commission no less, appointed by the same the government, if and after such deliberation, if they come to this conclusion, we have to take that seriously.
But then the
just adopt that their recommendation, and the reasons they have given. It is not a Hindu-Muslim issue at all. That is what they said. Every community will be affected. I think ideally Muslims should just keep quiet. I would rather say, okay, all right, I like Common Civil Code. Please show me the draft. What will it look like? Nothing.
So you should ask for a draft and debate the draft.
And then why are we taking the Law Commission report so lightly?
No, sir, but the 22nd Law Commission,
yes,
in June, which is only a couple of weeks ago or so, I think on the 14th of June.
22nd. So, which has been constituted now is 22nd.
That's right.
21st Law Commission report,
yes,
after deliberation of 2 years, gave a recommendation and it has not even been debated. Debate that.
लेकिन सर रात गई बात गई अब
22nd that is the latest.
नहीं सर 22nd Law Commission ने अब कहा है June 14th को कि they are giving only a 30-day window.
Quite right. So this Law Commission was actually not even necessary. Because the earlier Law Commission disappointed the government by its recommendation, although its mandate must have been surely something else. So after deliberations, if they came to a conclusion, why are we dismissing it? How can we sweep it under the carpet? Debate it. You don't even know the content of that Law Commission.
We do not know the report.
Because nobody has. No, it is in the public domain, but it should have been debated.
Yes.
And it is not even among the community. It talks about regions. And North is Article 371. It talks about 6th schedule of the Constitution, Article 371. Nagaland, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Arunachal, then Goa, all these states have different personal laws.
Because they're largely tribal communities.
Yeah, correct. Largely tribal. Now, do you know in Nagaland, even the CRPC is not implementable. Even CRPC, Criminal Procedure Code. So the fact that
the state has its own laws to deal with law and order and crime.
Exactly, and the power is given to the panchayat. So the fact that this is a 100-year-old debate, the fact that the Constituent Assembly could not come to a conclusion. Very often we say that the Constitution says the state should make a uniform civil code. The language is that a state should endeavor to bring Common Civil Code. Now, the Constituent Assembly could have made it compulsory. It could have included uniform civil code.
So, why does the Article 44 of the Constitution, under directive principles, why does it say that the state should endeavor or the government should endeavor?
Correct. That is the question I am asking. It only says that the state should endeavor. Otherwise, Article 25, which says every person can practice his or her religion according to his or her religious practices and beliefs. That is a judicially enforceable article. Whereas 44 is just a desire, a wishful thinking. The state should endeavor. The state has been endeavoring. It has gone to Supreme Court 5 times. They have not come to a specific conclusion. They say, Parliament, please make a law. The fact that Constituent Assembly did not do it, the fact that for 70 years the government did not do it, even BJP governments in various places did not do it, because there are complications as brought out by the Law Commission report.
But sir, can I just say, having said all that, that the personal laws, I'm sure that there are a lot of issues, not just in the Muslim community, but Christians and tribals, as you just mentioned. But the point I'm making is that the Hindu community in the 60s also rose up against Jawaharlal Nehru and said कि कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है But he pushed it through because he felt that there were a lot of not just inconsistencies, but it was not fair.
Fair enough. But
Now, having said that, so in the Muslim community, why is it that, I mean, things should be obviously more fair for both sexes, or they should be equal?
In fact, again, I'll bring you back to the Law Commission. That is what Commission has said, that instead of making it uniform. Now, look at the two simple things. I'm a Muslim and I got married through a nikah.
Mm-hmm.
You are a Hindu, you went through the phera. How does it affect you or me?
What do you
Does
mean?
it bother you or me? If I'll get buried, you will be cremated. How does it affect anybody?
No, but that's not the point.
And how is it affecting the unity of the country?
No, sir, that's not the
point.
That's not the point. The point is that as citizens, we should all be submitted to one law.
No, let me disagree with you, Jyoti. That is the point. After all, personal laws are small these things.
Mm-hmm.
So now, how is it affecting the unity of the country? That I'll get buried and you'll get cremated. So is it creating problem for unity of the country?
No.
Now, Law Commission also went into this and it said the cultural diversity cannot be compromised to the extent that our urge for uniformity itself becomes the reason for threat to territorial integrity. In the name of unity, we'll disunite the country. That is what the Law Commission of India has warned.
But sir, can I just say that just because all men and all women should not be polygamous or bigamous does not threaten the unity and integrity of India.
Yeah, correct.
So therefore, they should not have polygamy and bigamy.
Yeah. No. Anybody who opposes the
or succession or inheritance,
Yeah.
these should be uniform. I understand that there are concerns within every community. Those can also be assuaged.
See, we have to see, because there is a reason why different regions and different religions have different practices, and the complexity and the variety is something which the Law Commission has pointed out. And it says that instead of trying to get a uniform code, it is better to reform all those communities individually. Muslim personal law should be reformed within the law and should be codified.
Are you in favor of that?
I'm in favor of that.
No polygamy, no bigamy, equal inheritance for women and men, girls and boys.
In fact, do you know that Islam was the first religion to give property rights to women 1400 years ago? There is a verse in the Quran which spells out inheritance. There are 10 categories of relatives who inherit, out of which 6 are women.
But sir, is that practiced in real life? And I think that's the guarantee that women need.
No, the practice in real life may be a different thing.
Right, so I think that's the guarantee that women need.
I'm supposed to say prayers 5 times, I don't.
Exactly.
What does it mean? So do you need some law for this?
No, you don't need a law. But I'm saying that just women need, like citizens need guarantees. The Constitution should give them the guarantee that their right to life, liberty, that they're equal under the Constitution.
You know,
and you know, the Prime Minister also referred to, he said, अभी मैं Egypt से वापस आया हूँ, वहाँ पे 95% Sunni population, वहाँ पे तो सब है, वहाँ पे तो ऐसे कोई polygamy और bigamy नहीं है, वो भी उन्होंने कहा.
नहीं, बिल्कुल ठीक कहा उन्होंने.
और बहुत सारी Muslim countries abroad, वहाँ सब तो ये सब नहीं है.
मैं entirely I stand for it. बिल्कुल, when I take it up with the Muslim Personal Law Board, I say that 22 Muslim countries, if they have banned polygamy is banned in the sense, polygamy is allowed even in those countries with the permission of the first wife. Now, suppose
सर आप फर्स्ट वाइफ को आप बुली भी कर सकते हैं, कुछ भी कर सकते हैं, वो सब I don't agree with.
नहीं, उसका एक रीजन है, कि अदरवाइज सपोज रीजन कि that woman is very very sick.
We are not looking at the man's personal behavior and choice.
No, just a
we are
minute.
looking at something that all women must be entitled to.
You know,
right?
The Islamic position is that polygamy is permitted, not as an injunction, it is preferred. It is permitted with in the certain circumstances when it becomes necessary, with conditions. Equality with that is impossible or almost impossible, which is why. Suppose the other alternative to get rid of that woman, if somebody falls in love with another woman. So what does he do with the first wife?
Divorce.
Bride burning.
Huh, sir. Bride burning is absolutely unacceptable.
So,
and it's not, it's
it's a crime in any case.
It is a crime.
Yeah, but that is what was happening. That is what was happening, because at least divorce is an easy way out, is a graceful way out.
Right.
We can't live together, I divorce you. And of course, in the Quranic way, not teen talaq. Teen talaq is definitely un-Islamic, illegal, despicable.
So
Now, one interesting thing written by the commission is because many women's delegations came to the commission. You are talking about women's rights, women's equality. Surely that is a very important consideration.
and the constitution must give us equal rights.
Absolutely.
Whether I'm Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian,
yes.
I don't care whether blue, pink, green.
Yeah.
But I must get my rights.
Absolutely. But interestingly, the commission said that our consultations with women's groups suggest that religious identity is important to women. And personal laws, along with language, culture, etc., often constitute a part of this identity. They oppose the uniform civil code.
Lekin,
Those
sir,
same women.
but I just want to say that, I was very young in 1964 when the Hindu personal laws were reformed. But the number of Hindus who opposed the reformation of the personal law, I'm so glad that Nehru had the courage to ignore these people who opposed them.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think you have to, the constitution guarantees, it's a secular constitution. So I think either the Muslim community and the Sikhs and the Christians and everybody else must get their act together.
Fair enough. Now, you are talking of constitution again and again. It is the same constitution which is provided for unity in diversity. It's the same constitution.
But at what cost? At whose cost?
No, but then we should not be invoking the constitution, because constitution gave Article 25 that everybody has a right to practice his or her own religion according to their own religious beliefs and traditions. And
which should be reformed.
And which should be attempted to be endeavor to reform. So the fact that it is not just the directive principles are not justiciable. Article 25 is. So since we are saying constitution, so we should actually follow the spirit of the constitution. Why did the constitution not ban it? They could have done it, they did not, because they realized the reason, the gravity and the complexity. And as late as 2018, the second senior most judge of the Supreme Court, Justice Chauhan, I think what he has written is very sane and wise. We haven't even debated it enough. Let us see what he is saying. So
would you say then that the Muslim community and all other communities should reform their own personal laws?
100%. 100%. There is a need for reform.
So why isn't that happening?
No.
It's been 75 years. Why hasn't that happened so far?
You yourself mentioned that in every community there is a resistance.
Yes.
In Hindu community, there is so much of resistance.
Right.
Girls were not getting
completely disempowered. Completely disempowered.
Yeah.
Until one is that we have to be grateful to Jawaharlal Nehru, who rammed through this reformation, and subsequently, I think as women have petitioned the Supreme Court, they have got their rights.
But who was Jawaharlal Nehru? I've never heard of him.
Sir, he was India's first Prime Minister, and we must be grateful to him on this count, and I'm sure several others. But to come back to the question, I feel really bad that the Muslim community has not been fair to its women.
No, but if you talk to Muslim communities, women themselves, so this is what the Law Commission has said. The delegation came and they said, we don't want uniform civil code, we want to follow our religion, and we are quite okay with this.
And you are in agreement with that?
No, the fact that you can't be talking of Muslim women when Muslim women are being widowed every other day. Now, shedding tears for Muslim women, is there some sincerity about it? That is something which needs to be questioned. Well, every day the lynching happens, some young man dies and a woman becomes a widow. And Muslim women are in such bad shape. What is this? These are crocodile tears. So ask Muslim women, and Law Commission asked Muslim women, and they've recorded this, and I just read it out to you. What exactly was his finding?
No, I'm in complete agreement with you that on the one hand, people are getting lynched for no fault of theirs, allegedly for carrying beef, when we all know that nobody is really killing the cow, and I mean, I'm in agreement with you on that front. But I would still say, so are you then, Dr. Quraishi, are you linking what the Prime Minister said to the fact that elections are around the corner, that this is a political gambit?
Unfortunately, because that way the ruling party is in a win-win situation. If they are able to pull UCC through, well and good, great victory. This was a part of the manifesto. 2 things have been fulfilled. This is the third. And if they are not able to do it, and it becomes controversial, goes to the court here, there, and whatever. Even the debate itself is polarizing. That also suits. So both ways, it is going to work. And the answer, I would say, my suggestion to Muslim community: don't come on the streets. Just if you have something to say, send a representation to the law commission, and to the government would be that why are you sweeping the previous law commission report under the carpet?
So you want that to be debated?
To debated, and 1. 2, my suggestion will be that the Uniform Civil Code in principle is a good idea. So let us see what it will look like. So let us see a draft. What will be the position of a Hindu undivided family in that? I hope I will get to benefit from that also. It will be extended to the Muslims.
Yes.
Why should it be only the Hindus? So what will it look like? We really don't know. So come out with the draft. Discuss the draft, because the groundwork has been laid. The pros and cons have been analyzed threadbare by the 21st Law Commission. You should make it that the starting point. You have taken it back. A new Law Commission will go through it again with a clear mandate. We want it in 2 months. Please do it. And I don't know how powerful and strong the current chairman is. The previous one showed his backbone because he came out with something which was not as per the mandate given to him.
So you're not against the Uniform Civil Code?
Not at all.
But you would like there to be a draft. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yes. Because what will it do? There is another fear that is it the Hindu systems and customs which will be imposed on everybody? Why not good practices from all communities?
That's a fair point.
And that is the point. That's why we would like to see the draft. So bring out the draft. And I have also suggested in my article that Muslim Personal Law Board also should examine it. Number 1, the reform within the community, which are overdue.
Will you make an appeal to the Muslim community for reform?
Let me read out my last sentence to you. Meanwhile, the government could set up an interfaith committee to draw up a model UCC. Interfaith committee is not a Hindu community which gives a draft and which Muslim, Sikhs and Christians will follow. This Muslim Personal Law Board should study the practice adopted in Muslim countries and could draw up a model nikahnama for the Muslims to follow, obviating the need and possibility of court interference. So
it should come, the lead or the leadership should come from within the community.
From within the community and each community.
But sir,
mind you, when we are talking of community, do not forget that it also has regional implications.
In what does that mean?
Northeast. The Article 371 gives a similar exemption to the Northeast. What will be the impact in Nagaland? Manipur is burning. Do you want to create the similar conditions in Nagaland and other places? Law Commission has indicated this, highlighted this issue. Have we ever has this thought crossed your mind that it has regional implications also? So let us study them. So we should, in fact, which is what this commission is saying, that in the name of unity, if you end up creating disunity, you are doing great disservice to the country.
So let me ask you, you've been part of a group of Muslim intellectuals who have had conversations with senior RSS leaders. Did this question come up in that?
No, it was not, because this was the very first meeting with Mr. Bhagwat in August last year, and basic issues were raised.
With Mohan Bhagwat, the RSS chief?
Yes, RSS chief. And after that, we said that since you keep traveling and you're busy, but we would like the dialogue to continue. Please suggest 3-4 names with whom we can follow up this discussion. He mentioned 4. We had a follow-up meeting.
Yeah.
And we are in dialogue with them, because we are trying to, at least one agreement that it's a question of perceptions. Because, for instance, I have said, okay, look, what are your allegations and charges against the Muslims? Please tell us so that we can reply. He said, no, there are no charges, no allegations, it's just perceptions. I said, all right, please give us a list of your perceptions. We give a list of our perceptions and let us discuss each perception and see whether there is a meeting ground.
Right.
So, and that is where the stage where
that is where you are right now.
That is where we are.
So right now you're not discussing the Uniform Civil Code in that.
It might come up in the discussion in which we'll point the same thing out. That look, please study the. I personally value the 21st Law Commission report because of the widest ever consultation that they did. And the stature of the man who was the chairman of that commission. He was the second senior most judge of the Supreme Court after the Chief Justice.
Right.
So, and he examined it, he 75,000 representations, hundreds of delegations, he came to a recommendation, and that means nothing. Okay, at a new commission, please give us a recommendation. This is, it doesn't sound very fair.
But unlike the abrogation of Article 370, and unlike the making of the Ram Mandir, and although even that was done, it was mediated between the two groups, between the Hindu group and the... In that sense, I think the Uniform Civil Code is different from these other two poll promises that the BJP has made. And I think the difference is because it is so wide and because it affects everybody. That it will need, I think, much more time.
Yeah, because, we have to see it historically, because the fact that it has gone on unresolved for so long because of its complexities.
Yeah.
And they need to be resolved. Number one, reform of every community within the community. That should be encouraged. And uniformity should come from an interfaith dialogue. All communities should come together.
So what would your advice be to the Prime Minister, since he is the one who's raised this issue?
My request and appeal to him would be that please set up this interfaith committee to come up with a draft report and invite a national debate on that draft report. If the draft may be so good that everybody will fall for it immediately, or the dialogue will continue.
Well, I think we have to leave it there. Dr. Quraishi has talked about the need for a draft, and we hope that people are listening, and that's perhaps the way to go forward. But thank you so much, Dr. Quraishi, for your time.
Thank you so much.
And for informing us about the complexities of a matter like this.
Thank you very much.